Alright lads, welcome back to my review of the Sea Harrier FRS-1. This is the first navalised Harrier variant that was made for the Royal Navy, not to be confused with the later FA.2. That plane had a much better radar as well as AIM-120 AMRAAMs. This could come in the future, but at the minute, the FRS-1 just has advanced sidewinders. But we'll get into that shortly. Let's first go over some of the more simpler details. The FRS-1 sits in the British tech tree, in the 7th rank, and at battle rating 10.7 for arcade, realistic and simulator battles. This is a squadron vehicle, which basically means it's kind of like an event vehicle. You don't get any bonuses to the premium or silver line modifiers, so it is basically just like a tech tree vehicle. You'll have to join a squad in War Thunder to unlock this plane, and you'll have to grind out 520,000 squad points. This is quite a lot and will be quite a grind. Alternatively, you can buy it straight up for Golden Eagles, but I would not advise doing that. And finally, once you unlock the plane, you will have to purchase it for the cost of 930,000 Silver Lions. To put the vehicle in your lineup, it will cost you another 260,000 Silver Lions. And for the Expert in Ace qualifications, which is important if you're trying to play this plane in realistic, not so much in ground realistic, but anyway, for the Expert quali, it's 930,000 Silver Lions. And for the Ace, it's 2,800 Golden Eagles. So this plane is obviously quite expensive and quite a grind to unlock it really. And considering we have the Harrier GR7 already in the British tech tree, which is kind of similar to this plane, but with much better weaponry, is it even worth grinding out the Sea Harrier? Well lads, if you want to know the answer to that question, but before we get started, a message from this video's sponsor. This video has been proudly sponsored by Jeremy Clarkson's number plate. Its message says, subscribe to Sako on YouTube to cause more Argentinian tears. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Alright boys, welcome back, and to start, the Sea Harrier is actually powered by the Rolls-Royce Pegasus Mark 103. This is different to the GR1, which is powered by the Mark 101 I believe. There's not much difference between the engines, it got slightly more thrust with the 103. You've still got the same typical Harrier problems, mainly that the engine of the Harrier is hotter than an F14 it seems like. I'm telling you now, if you get an A10 or anything behind you with AIM-9Ls and they shoot at you in a rear aspect, there is nothing that you can do to stop that missile hitting. You can cut your engine, do some cancel rolls and pop flares, none of that's going to matter. That AIM-9L is going to track you like a dog tracks a ball. I don't know why the engine is so hot on this thing. It's not afterburning obviously, Gaijin just messing up flight models and performance models in general. That's what we're accustomed to now though. I don't know why the Harriers are so hot, they shouldn't be really to be honest. But anyway, stay away from A10s, if they get a rear aspect shot on you, you are going to die. This is quite frustrating when you are playing this plane, because literally you cannot dodge an AIM-9L from a rear aspect shot, even if you pop every flare that you have. Moving on, we do also have 60 countermeasures. I typically do take 60 flares. You don't really meet any semi-active radar homing missiles at the battle rating of 10.7, so I take all flares instead of taking chaff. This is what I found to be the most productive for me. That might change for you though. But let's talk about the radar, the fire control system and the weapons in general. It's important to realise that the Harrier was a British Cold War design, which basically means it was pretty terrible, at least until the Americans felt sorry for us and gave us those juicy AIM-9Ls. I am being a little bit harsh, the Harrier was a great invention and would have been a real asset to a Cold War army. But it certainly cannot be said that Britain was no longer world leading when it came to avionics or aircraft weapons. And neither really is the Harrier. The plane does have the Ferranti Blue Fox radar. This is very simple to be honest. It has a BVR mode and a air combat maneuver mode, but it doesn't have pulse Doppler, and you don't have any semi-active radar homing missiles to actually fire with this radar set. What you can do though is actually lock an enemy and try and trick them into thinking that you do have semi-active radar homing missiles. I do this typically at the start of a match if I take off and climb high. You can lock an opponent and they will start trying to notch the radar, which kind of puts you into a favourable position to engage them. Just a quick little tip, again you don't have any semi-active radar homing missiles, so the radar isn't really that functional. We then move on to the pilot, which has a CCIP for the cannons, rockets and bombs, as well as having an RWR, which will mainly just piss you off, to be honest. We then go on to the stock weapons. This is an event vehicle, well, I guess a squadron vehicle, so you do not get any of the modifications when you unlock the plane. And we're stuck with the good old 30mm Aiden Mark IVs. At 10.7, these guns aren't too bad. They do hit quite hard. They're a little bit inconsistent. At top tier, they are pretty bad, but at 10.7, where you're mainly still subsonic, they can be workable. They have a fire rate of 1200 rounds per minute, but only have 130 rounds of ammunition. They are workable. They're not really high velocity though, which makes it does struggle to lead targets, and they're not really the best for ground attack, but they still are more than capable. I would prefer to have the 25mm on the GR7, but you can't have everything in life. Speaking of that CCIP, we do also have RP rockets. These are largely useless, just like much of the British Cold War arsenal. They only contain 691 grams of TNT, which is basically nothing, giving them 10mm of explosive penetration at all ranges and angles. I assume these rockets were intended for use against soft targets like pillboxes and howitzers and stuff like that, because they certainly cannot be used against enemy tanks. So in ground realistic, it's basically just a waste of time taking these. If you do want to play the ground support role, then your next choice is much better. And that is the 1000 pound high explosive MC Mark 13 bombs. These contain nearly 296 kilograms of TNT, allowing them to destroy any vehicle within a radius of 12 meters. Quite a lot of bang for your buck, to be honest. You can take a total of 5 of these bombs into battle, 1 on the center line, and then 2 bombs on each of the inner hardpoints, with the outer hardpoints being reserved for your air-to-air missiles. Like the rockets, these bombs do have a CCIP, which does allow you to be fairly accurate with them. However, you will have to get quite close to the enemy to drop them accurately. These 1000 pound bombs are also quite good for grounding out RP in realistic battles by bombing enemy bases. However, 5 1000 pound bombs is enough to destroy a single base, so if you are trying to passive ground, then you will have to make repeat trips to the runway. We then come on to our air-to-air missiles, and our stock air-to-air missiles are the AIM-9Gs. These missiles are by no means bad, to be honest, the same missiles found on the FGR-2, the British top tier Phantom. They don't pull very hard, only 18 Gs of maximum overload, but what they lack in manoeuvrability, they make up for in speed and range. Like the PL-5s of the Chinese nation tech tree, although they are by no means as good, the AIM-9Gs kind of have a fast speed in air and burn out pretty quickly, making them almost stealth missiles, as that red diamond kind of goes quite quickly, so enemies don't really see it coming unless they're paying very close attention. This missile is largely redundant though once you unlock the AIM-9L. This is basically an upgrade in every way, as it features an all aspect seeker. It also has 30 Gs of maximum overload, making it easier to both acquire a target and to get a fire solution on it. While the AIM-9L is considered quite overpowered at the minute along with the R60M, it is not magic, and is still easily floored against all opponents who have the sensory cutler afterburner, with a few exceptions like the F-14, and every single Harrier in the game seemingly. Anyway, that covers it for all of the weaponry and most of the details worth mentioning, to be honest. In my opinion, the Sea Harrier is a nice addition to the British tech tree, to be honest. The sweet spot in RB is definitely 10.7 at the minute, along with planes like the J35XS and some of the MiG-21s. This is going to be even better once the maximum battle rating of 12.0 is introduced in the coming weeks, and should see a 10.7 dominance meta rising. And while the FRS-1 is subsonic, and basically a flying brick with no ability to turn or regain its energy, especially considering your engine overheats after 30 seconds of flying on WEP, I think the Harrier, or the Sea Harrier, it's a very nice plane, to be honest. If you can unlock this passively, definitely get it. It is going to take a while to get it by squadron points. I wouldn't recommend GEing it, you're not really missing out, especially if you already have the GR7. It's definitely the best British Harrier in the game at the minute, apart from the GR7 maybe. I'd say that it's a little bit more competitive than the GR7 in RB, just because it's got a lower battle rating, but still retains the 4 AIM-9Ls. In terms of its usefulness in ground realistic, it's not that useful, to be honest. It doesn't really have a British 10.7 lineup anyway, and with the prevalence of things like the Harrier GR7 and the Tornado GR1, you don't really need another cast jet for the British. But it's a good plane for me. I do enjoy flying it. It is a little bit frustrating when you get AIM-9L'd and there's literally nothing you can do to dodge it. But as I said, can't complain about everything. But anyway lads, I would recommend getting this point. It is fun to fly. It's a good all-rounder. It doesn't turn that well, but you need to just play it a little bit smart. Don't get dragged into dogfights, especially with F5Cs and A10s. So anyway lads, thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It does really help out. Once again, a big thank you to everyone that watches these videos, and especially to those who become YouTube members. Be sure to leave a comment down below of what vehicle you would like to see me review next. And as always, thank you very much for watching.